All right, class, this is your video for your absent lesson, or for when I'm absent and you are still doing the lesson. This is the lesson on 11.3. 11.3 is super easy. Shouldn't be difficult at all for you guys. We're just going over data displays. But before we get into that, remember, we've done these lessons before, and what I want you to do is pause whenever I ask you to pause, complete the problem. If it's a problem, if it's a quizzes or a video, anything like that, just go ahead and pause. Try and do everything that we're trying to do here in your journal. Just follow along as best as possible. So with that said, you should have a journal for today. So have your journal with you. Have a pencil available, and really that's it. You don't need your whiteboard for this necessarily. It's more so just your journal and your pencil, and that should be it. We're going to be doing some notes and some questions in our journal. So to start off, go ahead and do the bell work in your journal, and then we'll go over it together, but that's one of the examples here. Go ahead and pause here and do your bell work. All right, great. Hopefully you've done your bell work. Hopefully you pause and follow the directions. So with that said, let's get into it. A stem and leaf plot. So we know that that's going to have our stem here. And then it looks like it goes from 40s all the way up to 80s. So we're going to have a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like I don't need a little bit of this here. So I'll erase that. For my 4s, I've got a 40. Here, let me mark them off so I know I've done them. I got a 42, a 45, and I think that's all my 4s. For my 5s, it looks like I just have a 57. For my 6s, I have a 6, a 9. That's it. I'm also a little sick right now, so that's why I might have to clear my throat, might have to blow my nose, that kind of stuff. For 70s, I got a 73, a 6, and an 8. 73, a 6, and an 8. For my 80s, I have a 0 and an 8. Looks like I actually missed that 9 earlier. So let's extend this just a little bit and add in our 9, and that's just a 1. So there we go. There's our stem and leaf plot. And we got all our numbers taken care of, and we're good to go. Notice how I kept them in order from least to greatest. 73, 76, 78. Didn't do like 78 first. I did 73 first. Okay, so let's keep going. Looking at our calendar, next week we're working on our in-class project. For most of the week, really, you're going to have 11.4, which is not super difficult a lesson. Then in-class project for a couple days. You get all of Tuesday and then all of your block schedule day to do the in-class project. There's only a tiny bit that you have to do outside of school. Other than that, it's all in class. Then the project will be due on Friday, so we'll turn it in, and then we're going to enjoy Pi Day. It's our last day before spring break, so even though Pi Day is technically 3-14 for 3.14, that's during spring break, so we're going to have it on Friday. So that's going to be fun. Data displays. We just have to be able to choose the appropriate data display. So when you're doing your project next week, you need to know which is the correct display to use for the data that you're going to be collecting. And that's what this lesson's all about. Now, you do need to take some notes here. I need you to get all of this, and I know, it's a lot. Get all of this into your notes. I'm going to give you a minute to do that. I'd even try and include these little pictures as best as possible in your notes. So this is going to take a minute. Go ahead and pause, and I'll let you do that. All right, now that we got it all in there, let me just read through it with you guys. You guys read on your own, and then I'll read through it too. We got a line graph. You use a line graph to display numerical data that changes over time. Line plot to show how often numerical data occur. Scatter plot to see trends in paired numerical data, so like an X and Y pair. Bar graph to compare categorical data. Circle graph also does categorical data as a part of a whole. Stem and leaf plot to organize numerical data based on their digits. Histogram compares the frequencies of numerical data that fall in equal intervals. And a box and whisker plot to organize numerical data into 4 groups of approximately equal size. So, we have done all of these graphs before. In class, recently, we did these 3 as of this week. And you've done these 4, or was that 5? These 5 before in years past. What we're going to be doing today is not going over how to do these graphs. You should already know how to do that. Instead, we're going to be going over when is the best time to use these graphs. So you've got these in your journal now. Go ahead and keep that available to you throughout this lesson. I actually have it up on my computer screen so that I can reference it too. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be saying which graphs would be best to display a certain piece of data. So for instance, the table here shows favorite types of movies. It's a survey, and they surveyed people to see what's their favorite type of movie: a drama, comedy, action, sci-fi, or something else. What we want to know is it's already in a table, but we want to display it with a graph. Maybe we want to do bar graph, maybe we want to do pie graph, that kind of stuff. Which display can you use to display the data? Now, here's the thing. There's multiple answers. We're going to answer this, and there's going to be several answers you can go for. For instance, we could use a circle graph. Sorry, I want to call it a pie chart. Some people call it a pie chart. Some people call it a circle graph. We could use a circle graph to display this, just as much as we could use a bar graph to display this. Now, sometimes there's not a right answer. It could be either one of these, and they would equally be just as good at displaying the data. Sometimes there are ones that are technically better than others. I thought I put that on mute, but I guess not. Sometimes there are ones that are better than others, and it's not necessarily a clear choice, but for instance, let's just look at this. You could do a bar graph, and it would be a totally fine graph. It would show dramas at 17, comedies at 44, actions at 28, sci-fi's at 9, and others at 2, to kind of show, hey, here's where everything's at. Clearly, comedy is the highest. But since it's out of 100%, I think a circle graph would be best here. Let's go back to our circle graph definition. Represent categorical data. That's categorical data. We have categories here, but it's as part of a whole. So a whole would be, well, percentages create a whole 100%. So that's why I think circle graph would be best here, but bar graph would work too. There are wrong answers. I mean, a box and whisker plot would not work for this at all. So just keep that in mind. So go ahead and pause after I read this and try this problem out on your own. See what you come up with. Maybe have 1 or 2 answers, maybe 3 answers, and then we'll just discuss it. Decide which graph would display the data best and explain your answer. If we were to collect the data of the height of the class, what would be the best display? So go ahead and think about that for a minute, and then we'll discuss it. Or I should say, pause the video. All right, back from pausing it. Hopefully you thought of a couple of graphs that would work for displaying the height of the class. There are a lot of options here. Some that wouldn't work. For instance, I don't think a circle graph, for instance, would work. I don't think a line graph would work. Circle graph is categorical data. Bar graph wouldn't work. It's also categorical data. Line graph would not work because that's over time. We don't care about the height over time necessarily. A line plot could work. A line plot could show, okay, here's all the students that are 5 foot. Here's all the students that are 5'1". Maybe you have 1 that's 5 foot, 2 that's 5'1", 3 that are 5'2". Maybe none of the students are 5'3". Maybe one of the students is 5'4". That would work. That's a good way to do it. Stem and leaf could work. You could have on the stem part, you could have the foot. So you could have 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. Pretty much nobody's going to be 3 or 7 feet, hopefully. And then you would have the inches on the left. So 4'11", maybe another 4'11", maybe another 4'12", maybe a 5'5", maybe another 5'5", a 5'5", a 5'6", a 7, an 8, an 8, and then maybe a couple 6 foot, like a 6 foot, a 6'1", a 6'1", a 6'2". That could work. A histogram could work. You could have the range of 4'9" to 4'12", or 4'11", I should say. 4'12" is 5 feet. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 students. There's 3 students that were in that range, and then there's another range of 5 foot to 5'3". and there's only 2 students in that range, that could work. And then a box and whisker plot could kind of work. It could show the averages. So you'd have your box and whisker here. Maybe it goes from 5'9" to 5'11". And then here's the median and all that stuff. So all of those could work. None of those I think necessarily are the best. I think I kind of personally like either the line plot here or the histogram. So that's kind of the point. Notice how I gave 4 answers. 4 answers that all work. None of them are necessarily best. I think I prefer these 2. But there are some wrong answers. We wouldn't want to do bar graph or circle graph. Let's do another one. It says as a group, but we're not doing this as a group. You're doing this on your own. Decide which graph would display the data best and explain your answer. If we were to see what everybody's favorite flavor of pizza was, what graph would be best? I'm going to go ahead and let you pause. All right, so which ones did you guys think was best? I personally think that this is categorical data, so we have pepperoni. We got cheese. We got veggies. We got the meat lovers, so it's got sausage and pepperoni. Pineapple. I actually do like pineapple pizza. I don't order it ever, but if someone orders it, I'm going to eat it. And so those are categories, right? And so if we think of our categorical data displays, you could do a bar graph, you could do a circle graph, you could do a line plot. Those would all probably work here. I would think that probably a bar graph would be the best, but you can make an argument for the other ones as well. You can make an argument for a line plot too. Okay, decide which graph would display the data best and explain your answer. If we were to see how frequent students went to the bathroom. Ooh, this is a classic teacher issue. Some students go way more frequently than others. Go ahead and pause and figure that out. All right, so hopefully you thought of a couple answers. I think that there are a lot that you could go for here. You could go for a histogram, so you'd have the ones that only go 0 to 1 times, the ones that go 2 to 3 times, the ones that go 4 to 5 times, that kind of stuff. And then you'd have how many students on the left here. So only one student goes 0 to 1, 2. Well, that seems inaccurate, but whatever. Okay, so there's a histogram. You could do a stem and leaf plot. Not really, because you wouldn't have a whole lot that are going 11, 12, 13 times. You'd have a lot of 1s, maybe some 2s, and the occasional 3. I don't think anybody's going 11, 12, or 13 times. So, that wouldn't really work. I think you could do a box and whisker plot, maybe. Yeah, you could do a box and whisker plot. I think the best in the end would probably be a line plot. So you would have the ones that go 0, 1, 2, and then maybe the 3. So you probably have a whole lot of 0s. You'd have a whole lot of 1s. You'd have some 2s. And you'd have a couple 3s. I think that would probably be best, is the line plot. Okay, you got one more. Decide which graph would display the data best and explain your answer. If we were to see the range of students' grades on a test they took, go ahead and pause and think of what would be best for that. All right. I'm just going to cut to the chase here because we're doing a lot of explaining. There's a lot that you could work here. You could do histogram. You could do stem and leaf plot would be really good for this one. You could do a line plot. You know what? I actually just thought for the last one, you could also do a line graph. So you could see over time how often they were going. But that's a little extreme. But you could do that. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, okay. So for this one, I think that you could do line plot. You could do stem and leaf would be really good. You could do a histogram. But I actually think the best for this one would be a box and whisker plot. Because you would be able to see the median. You'd be able to see the highest score. You'd be able to see the lowest score. I think that'd be really good. So I'd go between box and whisker and maybe a stem and leaf plot would also be really good. Okay, finally, in your journal, what I want you to do is come up with a scenario like what was on the slides previously. So, for instance, I said, if we were to see the range of students' grades on a test they took, or if we were to see how frequent students went to the bathroom, or if we were to see what everybody's favorite flavor of pizza was. You come up with one of those. Maybe it's what students' favorite clothing brand is, or their favorite video game, or how often they forget to do their homework, stuff like that. Write that in your journal and then include an answer with an explanation why. So in other words, think of which graph do you think would be best for your scenario and then explain why. So this is going to take a couple sentences. You're going to need a sentence for this, and then you're going to need a sentence for this as well. So it's probably 2 to 3 sentences in your journal. And then we're going to talk about these on Monday for our bell work. So you do need to have this done so we can talk about it on Monday. So go ahead and pause and do that now. All right, and finally, go ahead to LMS and follow the remaining directions to finish class. Thanks for watching the video, and I will see you guys on Monday.